Welcome to a new cycle of interviews for HYPIA, Hyperpolyglots International Association. I'm Matias, Barmat, Director of Recruitment. We are here right now with us, Bianca Marucci from Curitiba, Brazil. And she's a teacher. She teaches English for kids. And we have an amazing story that you can read at the website polyglotism.org about the amazing story of Bianca and how she was motivated to learn languages through her eldest son Lorenzo, who has a disability, but she's her immense love for to try to communicate in a much easier way leads her to learn one language, another. Tell me, please. Welcome, Bianca.
Thank you,
Matias. Amazing story.
Well, actually, I started learning other languages because I actually my whole childhood was based in the constructions of metaphors and so on and so forth, since I was able to read from a very, very early age. But then when I was 18 years old, I just spoke English and Portuguese, of course. But when I was 19, I had my first son, and he is disabled. I don't like this word, but he had several problems concerning language impairment. And from that, I decided to learn other languages in order to help him to structure words phonetically speaking. And then the first language I was able to get a scholarship on was German. And then from German, I went to French. I applied for another scholarship in French. I self-studied and applied for scholarships. And then I was able to study Italian from another scholarship. And then I was able to study Spanish a little bit further from another scholarship. And then after a series of things that I was doing at that time, I decided to enroll in an undergraduate course in Polish. That's I'm supposed to finish next year, since it was supposed to be this year, but we had Corona, so
Indeed, it was a polyglot gathering in Terezin in Poland this year, but it was suspended due to the pandemics. And well, what are your thoughts? What's your opinion about the great objective who HYPIA is founded about? Fostering mutual human understanding through language and cultural diversity, about learning languages in order to understand the cultures better. We know as hyperpolyglots that it's not only just learning languages to communicate better, but also HYPIA has a much deep meaning that's to learn languages in order to improve the understanding among peoples. It's a commitment. What's your opinion about?
Well, I think it's a beautiful aim that HYPIA has, because actually we need people to talk to each other, and it's a big talk. So someday, like years ago, I watched a TED talk about big talks, and that is my thing. Instead of fostering small talk, is the thing that we do socially, we decided to be interested in deeper subjects about people. And then HYPIA has a beautiful aim concerning that, because when we have this cultural talk, we have deep, meaningful talks, which are the way that we foster bonds between people.
Undoubtedly. And undoubtedly, we perfectly know that languages have a rich history and a rich culture associated with. By the way, not everybody acquire the same fluency in every aspects. I mean, listening comprehension, writing production, or uh, yeah, about all that. It, about how to measure the exact level of every one of the language level of every one of our interviews. Um, it's not easy. It's not easy on a basis at the same level. We don't have uh, the same, for example, the same B2 level in listening comprehension, the same level in um, oral expression, the same level in writing expression, on the same level in written comprehension. It's difficult to measure if somebody is B1 or B2 in that. For example, I used to say that I'm B1 in French, but my written comprehension in French is B2, but my listening comprehension in French is A2. It's B1 in average. The same occurs with my Greek. I can speak B1 in Greek, but I didn't pass the A2 exam in Greek. So why? Because the writing production wasn't enough. However, I feel myself that I can speak A2 or B1 in Greek. So it's also valuable. Uh, I mean, what your opinion about?
Well, I think it's difficult to measure these kind of things. It's difficult to precise whether or not somebody is at a definite level concerning the European Common
Yes, a
Framework.
teacher of English. I'm asking you about that. Yeah. Continue.
And then, but there are several ways we can do that, considering assessments and so on and so forth. Actually, the evaluation is a substantial problem concerning any language, because we can evaluate somebody for a definite level. For example, FCE is B1, B2, and then for A1 is CAE for common framework concerning English specifically. And then, but I think there are more fluid ways to check that. I don't know if it's better for people to take an exam in a more fluid way, like we can measure whether you are B1, B2, C1, C2, so on and so forth, or a specific level of evaluation. I cannot precise the answer, because when we have a definite reference, it's easier for us to study and to try to follow the skills which are necessary to achieve that level somehow.
Understand. Um, about the next question is about mainstream learning versus autodidact learning. You know that uh, about the academic offer, basically about minority languages. But I mean, most of us, we learn languages by mainstream means. However, not every language has, I mean, not everybody is comfortable to learn by mainstream means. For example, I speak 12 languages, but half of my languages I have learned through mainstream, but the other half I learned through autodidact. um, it, not everybody not everybody feels comfortable to learn as mainstream, um, and in that sense, it's a question that I can divide it in two. First, uh, what's your opinion about um, the I mean the importance of mainstream learning is as important as learning as an autodidact. We know that some of us some of us prefers to learn mainstream languages in a mainstream system or in a mainstream structure, uh, and basically due to the market pressures, the job market. But also learning as an autodidact is as important, especially when, if you, for example, if you want to learn a minority language that you don't have enough language resources to learn. Um, I, I, I give your word.
Okay. Okay. I believe, I deeply believe that is a very valuable thing for a person to learn a language by oneself. Actually, it is not only because you are learning a language, you're learning how do you learn. And this is the very valuable means that self-learning offers people. You try to discover your own journey, your own path. And I think this is very, very valuable. On the other hand, concerning learning by traditional methods, I think what is important that people nowadays are tending to say, oh, I just have the internet, so I can do everything by myself. Sometimes it lacks a substantial mean of evaluation. So that's why that's when the traditional methods come in handy for people who want to learn a new language. So self-learning is a self-discovery journey, but you have also to be able to know whether or not you need to be evaluated by another person in your journey. And there is a point at one's journey that one needs a mentor. I mean, it comes to the point of things that is not just the fruition of learning by yourself, but you need a mentor in order not only to evaluate you, but give you another ways of thinking. And I think this is very, very important. Sometimes I think that is completely silly that somebody comes to think, oh my God, I have the internet, I can do everything on my own now. No, but this comes with maturity. I think the maturity is needed for self-learning. And when you are in the path of self-learning, which is also self-discovery, it comes to a point that you need another mentor somehow. Not only books can do this mediation, but it's important for you to have people around you who are able to help you to keep you on track and do other things, because it doesn't matter how intelligent you are, you can't do anything only by yourself. That's what I believe.
Sem nessuna dúvida, and without any doubt. Okay. The ability of us hyperpolyglots to change from one linguistic structure to other, the knowledge of the different grammatical structures, and we know that we basically have two basic ways to learn a language. The two main processes of learning a language, you know, that is a deep knowledge of the grammar structure and memorizing thousands of words of content. But several others, even though several other hyperpolyglots prefers to learn languages by a much natural way. Because languages not only it's consisting to learning by heart a lot of grammar and vocabulary, but also dancing, eating, drinking, and even though make love with languages. So, what do you think? What do you think about that?
Well, I tend to be a little bit traditional in my approach, because I believe that before you are able to do other things with language, communicate with people, and interact in more subtle ways, you need to learn the basics. So I tend to defend that we need to learn grammar structure before we go further on other aspects of languages, because all those subtleties and nuances we're able to get from people, the way that people speak, behave, and so on and so forth. But before that, we need the basis, and I think the basics is grammar structure. I am a boring person, and I believe strictly in learning the grammatic basis before we go on further and other nuances and subtleties.
Indeed. You know that there are 4 factors of language destruction. Throughout history, we know that territorial conquest, religious imposition, economic interests, and cultural industry have destroyed and annihilated several cultures. But however, on contrary of what I put in my own interview of HYPIA, I'm not completely pessimistic of that way. We know that we have that commitment to preserve languages and cultures, but also to teach, to learn and to teach them in a didactic way, and to create the resource, and to create, I mean, a bond in order to fulfill that commitment to preserve language and culture. I want to ask you about the last 2 questions. First, innate capacity or innate capability, or product of training. I mean, for example, you have an innate capacity, an innate ability to learn a lot of languages, or you have developed product of hard work and training, or both?
Well, I believe that both, because but hard work can do better things than just natural talent. If a person is just hardworking, and sometimes the person don't think that one has natural talent for something, hard work can provide a great set of tools for oneself to develop in the area that one want to go to. But nature gives a whole different spice for everything. If you're naturally interested and your brain is somehow wired, and this has to do with nurture too, but your brain somehow wired to language and metaphor, and this area, I mean, if you have both hardworking and natural talent, is a beautiful thing. You can, we're going to have the perfect set. However, if you're not naturally wired to anything, it doesn't matter if it is language, if it is crafting, craftsmanship, or something like that. If you are able to work hard, this is the whole thing. Because nature itself doesn't do the job. Sometimes we say that people are geniuses, and but the true geniuses, they are people who have a lot of hard work in one area, and, and this is the whole stuff.
Indeed, in order to keep motivated to learn a language, of course, we have to search to look for some. When I'm talking some kind of bond or some kind of vinculation, or I mean some kind of motivation to learn languages that varies for every language. For example, somebody prefers learn Italian because they like Italian cuisine or opera, or some kind like to learn English for American movies, or like French for, I mean, cycling or whatever, or learning Japanese through anime and manga, whatever. I mean, every language has its own motivation, or for example, some of us we learn languages because we belong to a certain community or a certain region of a country that's co-official or bilingual, but also for travel, or for necessity, or for need. Uh, for example, my last question is about the need to learn languages for taste or just for survive. It's a it's a very tough question.
It has to do, it's a tricky question because it has to do with people's subjectivity. Of course, there are some people who are just yearning for their own survival. Unfortunately, they're not able because their conditions doesn't allow to think in order uh, to produce more abstract way of thinking, rather say. But and this is a pity, because I think each and every human being from human experience deserve to be able to go to abstract thought. It's a pleasure, it's a fruition when you are able to go deeper in your abstractions. But unfortunately, this is not for everybody. It is like everybody has the capacity to do this, but the inner motivation differs.
Understand. Bianca, I want to thank you for your time. You are a very kind person, but also you are a great professional, and your story and your will of superation is it has a really, really I really admire you. because you are really an amazing person. So, para mí, muito obrigado. Thank you for everybody, for everything, and I hope you to meet again in the next chapter of the interviews of HYPIA. So, Bianca.
Thank you, Mati. Thank you for being so lovely, so kind to me.
No, the pleasure is mine.